Good evening. Welcome to this Tuesday, June 20th, 2017 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. We're a little late this evening. There was a Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting in chambers a little earlier, so we'll get right down to business. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Carteret. We'll call roll, and let me remind you, commissioners, please be sure your microphone is lighted and speak into the mic for the record. So, roll call. Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Armstrong.
Present. Present.
Yeah. Commissioner Bowie. Commissioner Crane.
Present.
Commissioner Fizer.
Present.
Commissioner Meiske.
Present.
Commissioner Sarsfield.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow. And Commissioner Faulkner is present. We do have a quorum. Let's see, no personal appearances this evening. There we go. One item on consent agenda this evening, acceptance of minutes from our June 6th, 2017 meeting, and I would either entertain a motion to accept consent agenda or to approve minutes as presented.
So
Commissioner Anderson.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Crane. Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Anderson to accept consent agenda. Second by Commissioner Crane. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor. 7 in favor. None opposed. And no abstentions. And we have nothing under old business this evening, so we'll move right along to new business. One case this evening, case 17020, traffic flow changes to Municipal Circle. And this case will require a public hearing. And I think before I open the public hearing, applicant, City of Raymore. So, Mr. Grass, Mr. Carteret, would you present the case, please?
Yes, thank you, sir. This is a unique case for the commission this evening, not one that you see regularly. In fact, I can't recall the last time we had a request for the commission to consider under this particular section of code. So I'll go through the staff report briefly, if I can. The request this evening, specifically by the City of Raymore, is to modify the existing two-way traffic pattern that exists here on Municipal Circle, and to modify it to a counterclockwise one-way traffic flow pattern. And we would also replace the existing on-street parallel parking spaces with angled parking spaces, with the overall intent to create a safer environment for vehicle traffic interacting with what we believe will be an increased flow of pedestrians through the area as well. The section of code that's applicable this evening is not part of the Unified Development Code. It is part of the City Code. It's part of Chapter 530, specifically Section 530.010B2. And for the record, I'll read that requirement. It states that no public street shall be vacated, narrowed, relocated, extended, removed, widened, accepted, acquired, changed in use, sold, or leased until it has been submitted to and approved by the Planning Commission after a public hearing. So it was my determination that the request to change the traffic pattern on Municipal Circle to two-way, from two-way to one-way, and also the change in the use of the right-of-way for angled parking instead of the parallel parking was a change of use of the right-of-way, and that's what requires the public hearing to be held and approved by the Planning Commission. This is a section of code that was modified back in the early 2000s. It was actually done by former council member Hubach. If you recall, she had left the Planning Commission, and this was one of the citizen petition items that she brought forward for the city to consider back then. She was concerned with there being due process anytime one of the streets within the city was being modified in any way, and that's thus the language of this particular code. So the reason, again, it's before you is staff's determined that, or felt that this was a change of use. The actual municipal circle plat was approved back in 2002, and a 50-foot right-of-way for the street was established. City staff did hold a good neighbor meeting. Wasn't a requirement for this particular request, but thought because it has potential to impact existing businesses that were near or provided access off of Municipal Circle, we wanted to have their input. So we notified all the property owners within the area, as well as tenants of existing properties. We did have a couple of individuals that attended that good neighbor meeting. We've highlighted the specific questions that they had. One of them dealt with the actual pavement surface of the roadway, and separate from this action tonight, it is the intent of the city to do what's called microsurface. It's basically a repave of the municipal circle area. That was intended all along, even before this request came forward. And with that, of course, there'd be a restriping. If this request is approved this evening, it is the final action by the Planning Commission. And if it is approved, then the city will move forward with that contract and stripe it according to the angled parking pattern. The second question from a neighbor at the meeting was whether the on-street parking spaces are accessible to all tenants in Municipal Circle, and the answer to that is yes. All the parking spaces on any of the properties in a Municipal Circle are available to anybody to utilize. That's part of the whole shared concept of parking that was created when this project was initially approved. So under staff comments, I provided the parking dimension standards for angled parking of 45 degrees. So it's a standard 9x18 parking space. With a one-way traffic flow, you have a aisle width of 13 feet. It will be more than 13 feet. That we have good pavement width here to work with, even when we go to the angled parking. So there'll be more than adequate space for vehicles to traverse around the circle and avoid any of the parked vehicles. There will be the ADA spaces provided as required. I think we're looking at parking spaces in the area of 100. We'll look at a minimum of 4 ADA spaces. Likely that there may be more. We haven't gotten down to the actual layout of the specific spaces. But in either event, the number of spaces would be provided as required. Right now, approximately 60 spaces are available in the parallel parking all the way around the circle. If the city does go to the angled parking, we anticipate being able to provide 90 parking spaces. So going with this one-way flow and angled parking, we gained 30 spaces. And part of the interest in doing this, of course, is with the increased use of the lots around the circle with the new Centerview facility, any events that may be held there, as well as future development of other lots. We want to have as much parking available as possible. This is one concept that the city thought would help in that situation. What other change that would be completed if the one-way traffic flow pattern is approved? We would make a connection from the southeast quarter of the parking lot behind City Hall, where the police department vehicles park here. If you're able to see on the aerial, there will be a connection from that parking lot to Broadmoor. With a one-way flow pattern, this provides a little bit quicker access for the police department vehicles to be able to head to the east using Broadmoor, not having to go all the way around the circle. So that was one minor change that would happen in addition to the change to one-way traffic flow. So a staff recommendation, we do believe that changing to the one-way traffic pattern with angled parking spaces, it does help establish the vision of municipal complex area as a pedestrian-friendly environment. Part of the interest of the city and why we bought the lot where Centerview is, we bought a couple of lots to the west of City Hall, is to create, this would be a town center, a civic town center, not a town center as you think of from a commercial aspect, but looking at it from having public facility buildings and other buildings here, creating a center complex. We want to make it pedestrian friendly. This year we intend to complete the sidewalk around the perimeter of the outside of Municipal Circle with street lighting and other amenities. So again, creating a more pedestrian-friendly environment. We'll have crosswalks to be able to get individuals from City Hall to facilities such as Centerview, all part of our vision for the area. We do believe changing this traffic flow pattern again would provide additional parking spaces, which in the future could be of help for other developments that may be coming. So staff does recommend the commission to approve this request to modify the two-way traffic flow pattern of Municipal Circle to allow for a counterclockwise one-way pattern and replace the on-street parallel spaces with angled parking spaces. Mr. Eanes did submit a memorandum from the engineering division. They, of course, have looked at this as well. They're working on that microservice project, but they also looked at the traffic flow pattern and the parking spaces and actually prepared the drawing that was submitted in the packet showing how the lots or the spaces would be laid out. We don't intend to change any of the curb line. Any of the bump out islands that you see in the circle would remain, will work within the existing pavement area that exists. So that would conclude staff report at this time, sir.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Carteret. Before I open the public hearing on case 17020, let me ask if you wish to speak during the public hearing, please come forward to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. I don't think we'll have a problem keeping it moving this evening, but we normally ask that you limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes just to keep things moving. So having said that, I'll open the floor to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Carteret.
While the public hearing is still open, I skipped over a section of the report. I do need to, because it is a public hearing, I need to enter into the record.
All right, let's go ahead.
That was my fault. I skipped right over it in my report. But this particular request required 2 public notices in the Journal newspaper. So we published those on June 1st and June 8th for this evening's public hearing. I do want to enter into the record the notices that we did mail for this hearing to all the adjoining property owners, everybody within 185 feet of the circle. The notice of publication in the Journal, the Unified Development Code, the application submitted for the request, our growth management plan, and the staff report submitted to you this evening. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Carteret. One last chance, if anyone from the public wishes to speak on this case, please come forward, and seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and open the floor for questions, comments, and discussion from the commissioners. Commissioner Meiske.
I have a question. Actually, I got 2. First one is, before we make the parking lot a one-way, is the southeast corner going to be done for the access to Broadmoor?
Mr. Eanes, do you know if that will be done?
I mean, you kind of indicated that you were going to go ahead with the contract and stripe and do all that stuff, but is that going to be done? I mean, is the place going to have access out to Broadmoor before we make this a one-way?
Yes, we would have to provide access for the police before we put any kind of microservice or anything down, because, you know, they're emergency vehicles, so the access would have to be put in first before we put in.
Okay. Then my second question to that is and I don't know what direction, but the exit now that the police go, they go left or right, is that going to be, is that still going to be there, or are they you're going to do away with that exit?
those access will remain. So the
Okay,
existing access points will remain. We'll add the one in the southeast corner.
So you're going to eliminate 2 or 3 parking spots in that southeast corner because you got to have the access there?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, other commissioners? Commissioner Sarsfield.
Yes, I have a couple questions, and maybe more depending on the answers. Since the circle was going to be for everyone that it more or less participates in the circle, regardless of the buildings and so forth and who's there. The building on the right, north of Broadmoor East, if I could label it that, where the parking lot is in back of the building. Now, is that a private parking lot? Because if they put the angled signs in front of that building, their customers have 2 options to park in the front of the building where, let's say, another activity is going on in the circle, or they could park in the back. Now, since those residents there, or excuse me, businesses there have options to front and rear parking, wouldn't it be fair if anyone in the circle would have access to the front and rear parking, especially weekends?
So what currently happens, that is private property. They were required to provide X number of parking spaces on the lot. Those are the spaces in back. Because that lot is part of the municipal circle, all of their spaces are shared with anybody else in the circle, just like the city hall spaces are shared with that business. What in practicality happens is the employees park in back, and the customers or the individuals going to that building for services tend to park either in a couple of parallel spaces in front of the building, but more likely they're parking in the police lot or the city lot across municipal circle. But again, the spaces on that lot in the back are available to anybody else. If there's a event at Centerview, people will be able to park there and utilize those, just as any of those businesses will be able to utilize the spaces at Centerview if they want to.
Will there be a sign put up off of Broadmoor saying additional parking here on weekends only, let's say, not during regular business hours, so not to interfere with the business's normal function?
In the spirit of the shared parking, unless it becomes a problem, we probably won't put a sign up, but obviously we'll be open to any requests that property owner or tenants will have if they're having difficulty of not having spaces in their lot for their own use. But at this point, we hope that the shared parking arrangement will work.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Anderson?
I'm trying to remember when we first got presented this here, and I think the question did come up, did we have an appropriate amount of parking for this? So how do we get from yes we do to we need 30 more spaces?
Excellent question. By code, we have the required number of parking spaces available for Centerview. The intent of this isn't, I don't want to make it directed towards Centerview because we have several other lots that could develop in the future. But the idea here is with the with the angled parking, it does provide more spaces in front of each existing building and future building. So the reality for the state social services office that's located directly behind us provides several more spaces in front of their building for anybody that'd be going for services to that building. The same with the law office, the building we were just talking about to the east. Clearly there's not enough spaces in front of the building currently for anybody that's going there for any business. The idea is by providing the angled parking, we increase the number of spaces that would be available in front of that building. The same with the remaining undeveloped lots, having spaces in the future there for potential uses on those lots. But certainly, and we always knew from the beginning, it's hard for the Centerview building, if we have the largest event that the building could hold, how that parking overall will work. Again, by code, we have enough spaces, but in practicality, it's hard to know, what we would have. And our belief overall is that additional parking spaces is a benefit to everybody in the circle. But we also like the component of that. By doing that, we feel it creates a a safer environment for pedestrians, because we know pedestrian traffic will increase in this area. So we're trying to create like I said, a safer traffic flow, and one way typically would have much safer traffic flow than a two-way traffic pattern. So it's kind of a combination of things that we're trying to accomplish here. Don't want to focus just on Centerview, but great question, because in practicality, the number of spaces we have overall shared in the center meets the requirements.
So my second question is, I think you mentioned that, we will have sidewalks that's circling or the entire municipal circle there. Will we have designated crosswalks, or is the expectation that if you park your car, just walk across the street? How will that work?
So, yeah, so the intent here this year will be completing the sidewalk network on the outside of the circle. Right now, it's piecemeal. So that is in the budget that will be done this year. That will include lights as well to light the sidewalk area. Our intent is then the pond area that exists to the south of City Hall, south of the parking lot. There is we're under design right now, but we are going to be changing that detention pond area, doing underground detention with a plaza area above that, kind of with some natural BMP landscaping there as well. But there will be a plaza area there, making a connection between City Hall and Centerview. We're hoping we will definitely have demarked crosswalks. We're working on a plan right now to make them raised crosswalks. We believe the raised platform crosswalks create a more pedestrian-friendly environment, a safer environment to be able to cross municipal circle. So that is our intent as well. Either way, there will be marked crosswalks, but we're hoping to enhance that with some nice bricked crosswalks as well, trying to again create the environment, adding other amenities, benches, et cetera, to create this town center effect. It's not a town square, but it's the same concept that we're trying to get to here.
Yeah, Mr. Zer?
Mr. Cataract covered it. I just wanted to make sure and impress the question that was presented by Commission Member Anderson was related to the parking issues around it, and what you're getting here is twice the bang for your buck, because part of the focus is the pedestrian accessibility that goes around the property and the safety that is involved with providing for the one-way.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Sarsfield.
I have another question. If I understand what you said, right, you went over pretty fast because I was focusing on something else. Any new development on any of the vacant lots, is there anything in writing, so to speak, that say whatever building they put up, they have to have additional parking beside their building?
Yes, sir, there is. So there's a very specific formula. Every building that is built here has to require X number of spaces on the lot. And typically you'll find those spaces to the side or rear of the building. The buildings have to be up front along the street. But there's a requirement that spaces be provided on the lot, but then they're also able to share the other spaces in the circle.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
All right. Commissioner Anderson?
Just clarity in terms of the open lots. I think you mentioned to the west, we own, which lots do we currently?
So we own lots, this is lot 4 and lot 5. So we currently own these two. Lot 3 at the corner of Johnston and Broadmoor, and lot 6 here are privately owned, as well as the lot north of the attorney office here is privately owned.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? You ready?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Anderson?
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the request to modify the existing two-way traffic pattern on Municipal Circle to a counterclockwise one-way pattern and replace the on-street parallel parking spaces with angle parking spaces as presented.
Second?
Commissioner Sarsfield?
Second?
Yep, thank you. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Sarsfield. to approve the request to modify the existing two-way traffic pattern on Municipal Circle to a counterclockwise one-way pattern, replace the on-street parallel parking with angle parking spaces. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Last question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson, of course.
So I'm assuming there's been discussion in terms of the speed limit will remain what it is now, or would it go down to, what, 5 miles an hour? Can we go as fast as possible?
We haven't had discussion on the speed limit. It is something that we should have before the change occurs, but I can honestly say we have not discussed changing the current speed limit.
Right. Does City Council set speed limits?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's actually out of our scope, I think, but thank you. Still a fair question. The raised crosswalks, in my mind, would serve a little bit to slow traffic too, just because they're a little kind of like a wide speed bump, but we'll see how that goes. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to approve the request to change traffic flow, please raise a hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. That's 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions, and we'll look forward to seeing that improvement. Find my way back to the minutes. Mr. Zur, if you would, give us the City Council report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a pleasure to be able to provide the City Council report. It will be brief. The last City Council meeting, you've only had one City Council meeting in between the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and tonight. Monday, June 12th, 2017, the City Council met in order to discuss a number of items. I'm going to identify one of them in particular, actually two of them. First is the mayor did have the opportunity to provide the State of the City address. If you didn't get the opportunity to see that, I would suggest pulling that up on your the City Council webpage. It was an excellent State of the City address and gives you kind of an update on where we are with development and where we are as far as the city business is concerned. With regard to actions that occurred that night, there were multiple appointments to to the Parks and Recs Board, as well as the Board of Adjustment and the Arts Commission. So we have fully stocked a number of our boards at this point with citizens who are interested in serving as volunteers for the city. As to specific actions that were taken, the only item I would point out is the City Council had their first reading of a resolution, first and only reading of a resolution accepting the city's new identity elements, which is the results of a branding effort by the city. So you're going to start to see signs around town and updated branding information on where the city's goals are. They worked with the Lynchpin Creative to come up with a group of design elements that will be incorporated both into city advertising as well as city structures and parks, incorporating some of the artwork that is being constructed and installed here in the city. So excited about the prospect of seeing the city's new identity elements and branding hard at work. Keep your eyes peeled. That would be all I have from the City Council report for the City Council meeting of June 12th. I guess I would also point out you did have approval for a contract for 155th Street, allowing for the bridge replacement. So any of the individuals on the commission or within the community who happen to utilize 155th Street as a major thoroughfare, be rest assured that we have a contract in place for replacement of the 155th Street Bridge. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Zur. Mr. Carteret, Mr. Grass, if you would, give us the staff report, please.
Thank you, sir. Looking at schedule for upcoming meetings, the next regularly scheduled meeting would have been on July 4, so that meeting is canceled as part of your schedule. But we will be meeting on July 18th. We have two items on your agenda for that evening: the public hearing for the 25th Amendment to the Unified Development Code that we went over regarding all the proposed amendments that staff had presented to you as part of the annual review. And then we also have a request for site plan approval for Discover Vision. Discover Vision proposes to build a new facility to the west of the Keller Williams State Farm building on Foxwood Drive. Basically the last lot in the Remington commercial area that's available. So they would do a freestanding single-story building there that would face 58 Highway, but also have, well, not also, but would have its access from Remington Plaza to the north. So we look forward to that facility coming forward for your consideration. And those are the only items we currently have scheduled.
Okay.
So at this time, if I could call on Mr. Eads for
course.
Public Works.
Mr. Eads.
Good evening. I have a few projects to update you on. Gore Water Line and Meter Station. The final adjustments for the vault and connection shall be completed around this coming Friday. Foxwood Water Tower, we're making the final adjustments to the SCADA. We're going to move from the outside to the small AT&T building that's underneath the water tower. Silver Top Sewer bid opening is 6/29, and the 2017 sidewalk bid opening is 6/27/17, and 2017 curb bid opening is 6/27.
Wow. Good. A lot going on. Thank you, Mr. Eads.
Yes.
I'll open the floor once more for public comment of any sort. And seeing no one, I'll move on to commission member comment. Vice Chair Pfizer, if I may.
Okay. I went to the Centerview open house on Friday, and it's a great facility. Everyone should check it out. They really put up a nice thing. They had a lot of good food, and they had a string quartet that could play Coldplay and Lady Gaga, so that was pretty impressive. And it's a great facility. The deck is wonderful. I love the deck and the artwork, so check it out if you haven't been there.
Great. Thank you. Secretary Crane.
I'd say the new building is fantastic. I was a little late and missed the mayor's speech, but other than that, my wife and I went through it, and it's really something to be proud of.
Right. Thank you. Commissioner Sarsfield.
I also was there, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but I had to leave before the mayor's speech, and I came back afterwards. It wasn't planned that way, but I had my granddaughter with me, and we didn't want to break up the meeting, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
But it is a beautiful building, and I like the practicality of it. We didn't go overboard with it and making it look like the Taj Mahal. Plain cement floors, so when people spill everything and you're not replacing the carpet, if there was a carpet every year, or nicking up the floor with the tile or something else. I think a lot of common sense went into it, and I think most people, when they see it, they'll realize it was for a good reason. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to do well with it.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
I guess I'll stay with the theme tonight, as I too attended the opening, and I too missed the mayor's speech as well. But other than that, I thought it was great, the utility of the building, and I think most importantly that some of the dollars in terms of event space that typically go outside the city will remain in the city. So I'm very encouraged in terms of what I've seen, and actually I made a request to rent the facility out for a couple of events as well. So what a good commissioner discount, hopefully. So yeah.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Armstrong.
Well, I'll continue the theme. I work intervened, and I missed both the mayor's speech and the opening, so I'll look forward to enjoying it at another time.
Okay, that's good. Commissioner Meiske.
Well, I'm just glad I'm not the only one that missed it. Thank you. But I look forward to go through it. But I do have another comment. As I was going to Harrisonville, I know several months ago we talked about city signage, as far as historical and parks and stuff like that. And I had my granddaughter had a dance recital there, and I'm looking for the high school. Now, I don't know if anybody's been through Harrisonville, but it's not the high school is not the easiest place to get to. However, they had great signage. You go down Mechanic, and you just go right to the high school, and I thought that was pretty cool. They had, blue sign, I think, was the high school, and brown sign was parks, and it was all on a pole, and it really, got you around. And, I know we talked about that months ago, maybe a year ago, but are we going to look into something like that?
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay.
Absolutely. It is included as one of the items of the strategic plan from City Council is to do wayfinding signs throughout the community as well as identification signs for the main facilities. So as individuals not familiar with Raymore, they can find City Hall, they can find the parks, the Hawk Ridge Park, as it's developed in the future. We do plan on working on a campaign for wayfinding signs, which
Okay.
hopefully will be as successful as Harrisonville's. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep. I also attended the open house, and I don't remember seeing any of the other commissioners. However, I was rather late in the afternoon, did see Mayor Turnbow and his wife, so, somebody can vouch that I was there. And also took advantage of the opportunity to drive around the circle and picture it being one way. And I obviously supported the case, but I think having been there for the open house of Centerview and driving around the circle, I think honestly it makes perfectly good sense. So we'll see how it works out, but I'm looking forward to it. I got a couple more things. I'll try to move quickly. I never get tired of saying thank you to staff, Mr. Carteret, Mr. Grass. It's good to see you again, Mr. Zur. Although, I'll have to jog my memory here for a second, but your alternate,
Mr. Fleming.
Mr. Fleming has done a fine job of working with us, so I'm not ready to kick you to the curb, but it was in good hands. Mr. Eanes, thank you again for the update and the engineering report on the municipal circle case. Mr. Carteret, I have a quick question. Don't know if it's of interest to anyone else, but on the pipeline, June 26th, City Council meeting, first reading of a vacation of Cunningham at Creekmore first plat, which caught my eye simply because I don't think I know anything about it, and we had just heard the case for Creekmore second plat. So if you could, I don't know that I need a long explanation, but if you could just give us a brief insight into vacation of Cunningham first plat.
Yes, sir. So the Cunningham first plat was actually approved back in 2008. So going way back in the history of Creekmore, it was a concept that the developer presented to the public. They did not intend at that time to build the first plat or to put the streets in the normal development, a scenario that you would see when they do a new phase. What they intended to do, because it's been successful elsewhere in projects they have, is sell lots to individuals where the subdivision will be built in the future at some point in time. And maybe the future is 2017, but at that time in 2008, the lots would have been sold, and the principal purpose would be so those owners have access to the amenities in the subdivision. Sure. It basically gets individuals that aren't ready to build but want to be able to enjoy the golf course or their amenities there. But it wasn't a concept that they really marketed, and they ended up not selling any lots, and probably on purpose at some point in time they stopped even offering them. What has occurred since then, when you saw the second plat, there was not a clear alignment between the first and the second. Right. They modified the street layout, as Mr. Gress indicated on the second plat, to have a safer location for the access to Cunningham. Right. So it necessitated, typically it would have been a replat of Cunningham First. A lot of times when they want to change the street layout or lot configuration, we just replat it. So we just, in essence, overlay above the plat a new lot layout configuration. In this example, though, in this situation, the property owner wanted to completely vacate the first plat, just eliminate it from the record. And so you did see the second plat.
Right.
The next plat that you will see will be likely the third plat, which in some ways takes the place of the first plat.
Okay, because I seem to remember on Cunningham Second that we put a temporary turnaround at that junction between the old first and the new second.
That's correct, and the streets just weren't quite lining up.
Okay.
So a vacation of a plat does not require planning commission review.
Right.
We could have sent it to the planning commission if there was an impact to an adjacent property owner in some way. We would have sent it to the planning commission.
And I'm not concerned about that. It was just the coincidence that we had just heard second with the cul-de-sac temporarily going into first, and then I knew there was more of a plan, but I just wanted to know a little bit more about it. So
Yes.
the property that was previously called first plat being vacated, that tract will come back to the commission at some point.
That's correct. That land area will come
No, that's
forward
good.
to you, yes.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. I think if I can impose on you, Mr. Carteret or Mr. Gress, I'd simply like to own something here, but I will say 90 miles to the east of Raymore is a city of about 20,000 people. It's been that large for a very long time, but Sedalia, Missouri, and coincidentally, what I'm going to give to you and ask you to pass on to the appropriate city staff person, but it's a tourism trivia, and of course Sedalia with the State Fair, the Katy Trail, clearly is looking to market themselves, and the Daum Museum of Modern Art and Scott Joplin Ragtime Festival. So I thought this was very nicely done. Not necessarily that I want Raymore to steal Sedalia's marketing idea, but you've got someone on city staff that might take a further look at this.
Certainly, yeah. Our communications director,
Right.
Mike Geeky, is who I'll share that with. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and the last item I had this evening, Commissioner Armstrong, not to single you out, I'm not trying to do a deer in the headlights, but I don't know if your subscription to the APA Planning Magazine started early as the June issue. I don't know if it's actually started yet. So commission members get these monthly, and there was something, and I will note this for all of the commission members, but in the June issue, if you haven't already pitched it into the recycle bin, page 43 was an article called An Intro to for New Planning and Zoning Commissioners. Gosh, sorry. I know that sounds like I'm picking on you. And Mr. Zur, of course, you've presented several very good training sessions on the legalities to the commission in the past, and so I'm not trying to detract from that, but I thought this was a very good article, and if you have not read it, if I can impose on you, I don't want the magazine back. And other commissioners, if you've still got the June issue, that's worth noting. So, thank you. There is, I'm sure we incur some cost for that, and of course the tiny homes featurette in the packet for today. There's always good information there if we simply have time and awareness and avail ourselves of it. So we can always learn things. And I do appreciate the articles in the Planning Magazine. And I actually am not much for trying to read online. I like the print copy, so pardon me, but I'm old school. Okay, let's see. I think I've rambled enough. Any other parting comments, or I'll entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, I think I heard Commissioner Crane second first. That sounded wrong. So, motion to adjourn by Commissioner Meiske, second by Commissioner Crane. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. Just one, Leo, thank you. And we've got 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I get tickled. Yeah.